that these were two, to use the term, very rough neighborhoods that Paul was sending Timothy and Titus to go minister in. Crete had a reputation worldwide of being criminally greedy. They had civil wars, they had seditions, they had robberies, all kinds of things, all in pursuit of money. We do know that there were some good, righteous people there as well. We know that there were Jews from Crete who were there on the day of Pentecost in Jerusalem and were there when the Lord's church was established. But by and large, Crete had a terrible reputation for being greedy, being of a criminal mind, and really anything goes when it came to pursuing money. I always find it interesting when Paul is talking about elders and deacons, he tells Titus to find people who are not given to dishonest gain, which may be pretty hard to do in Crete at the time. We also have Timothy, who's in a very tough situation, with Ephesus being at the center of the worship of the goddess Diana, which involved prostitution as part of temple worship, involved a lot of things that we would certainly not care for, that you can probably find in some of the seedier parts of our town. And these are things that we can relate to as we look at the United States today and the area that we live in. There's nothing new that Timothy and Titus weren't dealing with way back in the first century. Mankind in this regard has remained relatively the same. And we've talked about this over and over again, and if you don't remember anything else from the quarter that we've spent looking at the Pastoral Epistles, remember this, that Paul holds up family relationships with Timothy and Titus as the model for our relationships within the congregation. We are to treat each other as brothers and sisters. Younger men are to treat older men as fathers. We're to treat other men as brothers. Younger women to treat older women as mothers, and the older women to help teach and train the women of the congregation. And it's these family relationships that are at the core of what we are to be as the New Testament church. Paul goes beyond this and tells Titus that sound doctrine is supported by living our lives in a way that is peaceful and respectful of others. And if you stop and think about it, it makes perfect common sense. If you have people who are not peaceful, people who are not respectful of others, how are they going to respond to the gospel? If they have no respect for other people, how are they going to respond? How can they understand God's love if they've never seen God's love exhibited by the people around them? You know, if we stop and think about it with our own children, if the view of life and the world that our kids have is of a contentious household where there's arguing and yelling and bad things going on, and then we try to talk to our kids about the love of God, how are they going to understand that if they've never seen that demonstrated by us? And the same applies not only within our family units, but also in our larger family unit, that being the church. And we are to be setting the example and demonstrating for the world to see what the love of God is really all about and how that works in the lives of people. How many times have you talked to somebody and the conversation might come around to things spiritual and have people say, oh, I'm not going to that church. They're just full of hypocrites. How many of you have ever heard of somebody in casual conversation, oh, I know them, they go to my church. Really? They go to church? You see, in Romans, Paul tells us that it's how we live our lives on a daily basis that is our true sacrifice to God. And that's really what Paul is telling Titus, is what he's telling Timothy. And he's saying that in order for sound doctrine to really have a chance, it has to be supported by living our lives in a way that is peaceful and respectful of others. Temperate, worthy of respect. Self-control. Our society makes self-control a little bit difficult, doesn't it? Ruth and I saw, I think it was 20/20 or 48 hours or something along those lines here the other day. It was all about road rage and how people get incited to outbursts of anger over the way other people drive. I've been there. I've been out on 54 and during the morning commute. That's tough. And that doesn't even hold a candle to what those of you who go down 275 every morning deal with. But we have to have that self-control. We have to understand how to control ourselves. Yes? Right, yeah. That's too bad. I don't know how many of you could hear what Betty was saying. She was relating a time where they had invited somebody to a Bible class, or a home Bible study, finally got the lady to go, and then when they showed up at the home, it was the home of somebody she knew from the banking world, and who, in her mind, had a terrible reputation on all fronts. She closed the Bible and left and never came back. These things happen. Stories told by a police officer. He was driving down the road, and suddenly this sports car comes flying by him, breaking all the rules of the road, ran a red light, was getting excessively speeding, and so he takes off after her and pulls up behind her, pulls her over, and she was doing all kinds of things that were endangering traffic and things like that. He jumps out, pulls his weapon, goes up into a defensive mode up to the side of the car and says, "Lady, get out." And then says, "Let me see your driver's license and your registration." And he looks at them and calls it in like standard procedure. And then he comes back very sheepishly and says, "Ma'am, I'm real sorry. I'm real sorry that I pulled you over like that and treated you this way. But I got to tell you, given the way you were driving your car when I saw the 'Follow Me to Church' bumper sticker and the 'What Would Jesus Do' bumper sticker and the 'Support Sunday School' sticker on the back of your car, I was sure it had been stolen." People watch what we do. Lance, feel free to pass that along if you would. People pay attention to what they see us doing. I'm not going to say any of us are perfect. We all have those times. But that's the benefit of being a Christian, is that we can get forgiveness and move on. But we also have to pay attention that our actions and our activities speak louder than any sermon or any series of sermons that Neil will ever preach up here. Well, now, for those of you who may not have heard what Glenn was saying, he says when we go out in public, maybe at the workplace or wherever we're at, and we use proper language, we use appropriate behavior, we don't do these things that those of the lost do, whenever we're around us, I've seen this in the work setting a lot, that suddenly the conversation goes silent when that person goes by. Why? Because the people who are there doing things and talking ways they know not to do, they are self-condemned when that happens because they know you and they know what you're doing and they know what they're supposed to be doing. We if you think about it, you cannot not influence others. Think about that a minute. It is impossible for you to not influence other people. Regardless of what you do, regardless of how you're doing it, you, just by your very presence, wherever it is you're at, whether it's at home, whether it's at the store, wherever it is, wherever you're at, you cannot not influence other people. They will be influenced by you one way or the other. We would hope that we are able to, by living lives that are temperate and worthy of respect, self-control, sound in faith, love, and endurance, that we will have a positive effect on the world. Also, to help summarize what we've talked about before, the keys to success in any congregation are family relationships and good character. Character development is one of the hallmarks of a successful church, as Paul described it to Timothy and Titus. You want to know what Tim's doing with the kids out back? You want to know what I do on Sunday mornings back here in the middle school class? It's all character development. It's all building relationships, learning how to deal with situations, studying the Bible, even playing sports. They start off with a devotional. They tailor everything to even the games that they're playing out there gets tailored to the devotional thought of the day, which they started off with. But what happens on the field, on a sports field, when two people disagree? You hear people talking about going to a hockey match, or going to the hockey match or boxing match turned out. We see very bad behavior on the part of our athletes. But by going out and teaching our kids how to resolve these conflicts when they occur, and they will occur, that's part of character development. That's part of what we're trying to do. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. If you want to save the world, if you want to influence the world for the next 50 years, evangelize our kids. Starting in the elementary grades all the way through middle school and high school. Evangelize the children, and you will affect the world for the next 50 years. And that's what we're trying to do. And it's all part of the key to success of a good congregation, is to have these family relationships, good character, and character development. In 1971, I was an ROTC cadet, got sent off to my version of basic training at Grissom Air Force Base, Indiana. And looking around the room, I know that I've got a whole bunch of you that have got basic training type experience. And you know what it is we're talking about. My basic training was the same length everybody else's was. I just took it in the summer between the semesters. And I can tell you that in the summer in Indiana, it was hot. I was from Oklahoma, and I thought I knew hot, but I didn't. One day, about halfway through the program, we were running late, and we'd spent the better part of the early afternoon in drill and ceremony. And because of something that was going on with the rest of the base, our normal parade pad, which was a concrete pad out there that we could march on, we were sent to march over in a grass field, which at that time of year was very hot and very dusty. And as we were finished, we were sent back to our dorms to get ready for the next event, which was going to come up in about 5 minutes. And so we were marched across those fields. And as I entered the building, one of the captains, who was our version of a drill instructor, stopped me and another man and said, "Cadet, your shoes are dusty. Take 2 demerits." And as I opened my mouth to protest, I got out the word "but." He said, "Cadet, take another 2 demerits for quibbling with me over this." Anybody ever heard the term quibble? Ron, you heard the term quibble? What's it mean? Arguing about minor things. The captain didn't stop to explain it to me at that time, but he made it very clear that he was not concerned about how my shoes got dusty. He was only concerned with the fact that they were dusty, and that was an unacceptable situation for me to be in, and to take 2 demerits. Anybody here ever been guilty of quibbling? Splitting hairs? Putting somebody under a microscope? I know when I was a commander, and I hated it when this time happened, we would do everything we could to work with our troops and to try to make sure that they could be all they could be, to borrow a term from the Army, and to give them the very best possible opportunities to succeed. But usually when the time came that it was obvious that our efforts at rehabilitating this individual were not going to work, or that we were spending too much time on it, I would generally turn to my staff, to the captain that worked for me and our first sergeant. I'd say, well, put him under a microscope, we'll get something else, and we'll get him on out of here. I think we all know that there's not a one of us here that if we were put under a microscope, somebody could find fault with us in every aspect of our life. It's not hard to find fault. It's really not. Theodore Roosevelt once said that the critic, to be a critic, requires no specific expertise, requires no special experience. All it requires is somebody with a big mouth. And Theodore Roosevelt went on to say that it's the person who actually goes out and does stuff, the person that gets dirty and sweaty in the field of battle, that will one day receive the ultimate reward. I'm sure that nobody here has ever been tempted to quibble about things going on here. Split hairs. Oh, Ron? You? Oh, okay. All right. Right. Paul told the Romans in Romans chapter 12 that there are disputable matters. There are things that are not matters of faith that become matters of tradition for us. Those who would hang on to a disputable matter and split hairs about that, I believe would be guilty of quibbling and creating division. Thank you, Ron. In Titus 3, verse 9 through 11, Paul tells Titus, "But avoid foolish controversies and genealogies and arguments and quarrels about the law, because these are unprofitable and useless. Warn a divisive person once, and then warn them a second time." What might Paul be talking about here when he talks about foolish arguments and controversies? Yes. Right, whether it's West Texas standard or we're a little more liberal here in Florida, so we might wait a little bit. Okay. One of the advantages Ruth and I have had over the years by being a military couple is we've worshiped with military congregations literally all over the world. And I can tell you I've seen worship services structured 100 different ways, and you know what? They were all scriptural. You don't have to, Ron, you don't even have to have 4 songs in the service. You can do 5 or 6 if you want. I mean, it's okay. Yeah, it's okay. But when we find ourselves looking at others and getting ready to put them under a microscope and getting ready to put them under a microscope and split hairs over something that you see them doing, or you don't like the way they're handling that youth program that you have nothing to do with, or you don't like the fact that we've got all these old shoes piled up in the foyer, I would ask you to stop and ask yourself the question, am I quibbling? Am I getting ready to split hairs over something that is absolutely meaningless? Go ahead, Pat. Go ahead. Again, remember the definition, trivial matter. The whole idea, remember, was over doctrine and whether or not Gentile Christians were required to be circumcised and live under the Mosaic law. And no, that's not. That becomes a doctrinal matter. That becomes a matter of faith. No, that was not equivalent. That was not equivalent, yes. And you know what happened in subsequent to that, right? Yeah, Paul began to fellowship with those guys. If we begin to withdraw from others, yes, we can expect to have somebody come by and have a friendly chat about it, I'm sure. But here it says, avoid foolish controversies and genuine. One of the issues of the day at that time, amongst some of those who didn't believe in Jesus, was whether Jesus would even have been in a position to come out and bring a new covenant, because he was not from the right lineage. He was not from the Levitical lineage. And so he couldn't possibly be. Of course, we know that's covered in the Bible, but that changed. But that was one of the controversies. Other controversies, well, I'm of the lineage of David, no, I'm of the lineage of whoever, and trying to somehow position themselves to be better or elevated or worthy of more respect or more responsibility or whatever. But those were some of the things that were going on at the time. Quarrels about the law gets back exactly what Pat was asking about, was whether or not these Gentile Christians needed to do everything else that we had some of our Jewish Christians were doing. Why is it that you had Timothy? Why is it you had Timothy circumcised and yet Titus went free? Why'd you do that, Paul? Arguing about that is quibbling. Arguing about that, because it doesn't make any difference. Oh, yeah. Sure. Right. All in the first century, as they were kind of sorting things out. And it says, because these are unprofitable hand uses. Chris? Right. 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 Well, and I don't know how many of you could hear what Chris was saying, but he's basically talking about when Paul was talking about not eating meat offered to idols, which he addresses in Romans chapter 12, and basically said, I'm not going to eat this in front of these people because I don't want to lead them to weakness. I don't want to do something that's going to lead them away and that's going to cause them to stumble. Paul was one of those guys. He was all things to all people. There towards the end of Acts, when you take a look at it, called back to Jerusalem, and they say, you know, Paul, you've got some of our Jewish Christian brothers really upset because you're not following some of these things. And you know what he did? He went in and had his head shaved and he participated in the rites so that he would not lead these people astray and cause them to stumble. Today, in the southern United States, I think if we had a Paul out there that was trying to be all things to all people, I don't know that anybody would pay any attention to him. But yet that's what Paul did. Because we're to care about our brothers and our sisters and not get involved in these unprofitable and useless arguments. What I would tell you is anything that's not a matter of salvation is something that we can go one way or another with, unless it's a matter of salvation. Unless it affects somebody's salvation. And doing something that would cause another to stumble and to doubt their faith is a matter of salvation. I'm not going to do it. We have to be conscious, just like a family, of what everybody thinks, of where everybody is, what their true faith entails, and make sure that we encourage them and don't cause them to stumble and don't get involved in an argument just because I want to win. That's not what it's all about. Glenn? Right. 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 Sure. They want to throw out some astrological thing. Don't argue with them. Yeah. Right. 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 In fact, that's why Paul tells the Corinthians in 1 Corinthians chapter 4, he tells them, do not go beyond, or actually, Apollos and I did this so that you would understand the full meaning of, do not go beyond what is written so that some may follow you and some may follow somebody else. Don't go beyond what is written. Why? Because when you begin to go beyond what is written, people begin to break off and follow men and not Christ and not God. At any rate, warn a divisive person once and then warn them a second time. After that, have nothing to do with them. You may be sure that such people are warped and sinful and are self-condemned. I know there are some people who buy their personality, always want to mix it up, always want to have a controversy going. Probably if I were to go around the room and ask each one of you, you could probably name to me that one kid in high school that was never involved in a fight himself or herself, but you could rest assured that when that fight broke out, they were there. They were always wrapping things up, always stirring things up, trying to make things happen. There are some people who have so little going on in their life that they have to stir things up in someone else's so they have something to do. And Paul is telling us, have nothing to do with these people. You may be sure that they are self-condemned. He tells Timothy the same thing. He puts it this way, don't have anything to do with foolish and stupid arguments. Because you know they produce quarrels. And watch this. And the Lord's servant must not be quarrelsome, but must be kind to everyone, able to teach, not resentful. Who are the Lord's servants? How many Lord's servants we got in here? Okay. Phew, I was afraid that could go the wrong way. The Lord's servant must not be quarrelsome, but must be kind to everyone, able to teach, and not resentful. That goes back to what we were talking about family relationships, and about good relationships and good character being the foundation that supports doctrine. Opponents must be gently instructed. Let me say it again, gently instructed in the hope that God will grant them repentance, leading them to a knowledge of the truth, and that they will come to their senses and escape from the trap of the devil who has taken them captive to do his will. You know, if you watch TV and think that our whole society is supposed to operate like our political system, boy, we're in trouble. Because it is nothing but controversy and yelling and screaming at each other all the time. And we know that that's not how we're to be in the Lord's church, in God's family. Opponents must be gently instructed. We don't want to condemn anyone to the devil, although Paul does mention at one point that he turned, I think it was Alexander, over to Satan so that his soul may be saved. And in some cases, you have to let people, you know, kind of a tough love thing, you have to let people go off and do their thing, and then hopefully they'll come back. But opponents must be gently instructed. We want to bring everybody in. We need to treat everybody like family, even those who oppose us. Proverbs puts it like this in Proverbs 6. There are 6 things that the Lord hates, 7 that are detestable to him: haughty eyes, a lying tongue, hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that devises wicked schemes, feet that are quick to rush into evil, a false witness who pours out lies, and a person who stirs up conflict in the community. We're a community. What are the results that would this kind of behavior that would make God hate that behavior? Notice he didn't say in here that he hates these people. He hates this behavior. But what happened? Why would God? I mean, doesn't God enjoy a little WWE or a little fight out on the hockey rink? What happens? Why was God so dead set against division? Ron? As yourself. In fact, in Galatians 5, I think it's 14, he says the law is fulfilled in this, that you love your neighbor as yourself. You ever stop and think about it? That whole law that the Jews were all worried about is fulfilled in one command: love your neighbor as yourself. Right. Mm-hmm. Oh. Well, another couple of adjectives in there maybe. Right. Yeah. Good. Good. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Oh, good. Any guesses? I know some of you here. Ron basically had a dispute with the city of Temple Terrace over his water bill. They said he had not actually paid for water in several years. He'd been paying the service fees and that kind of stuff. But the bottom line was they wanted $1,200 from him, and he had to choose between going in and being very confrontational, losing his temper perhaps, and some things like that. But he chose the Christian approach, was to go in and talk about it, maintain a calm demeanor, rationalize about it. Bottom line was, when he appealed and asked, couldn't there be some reduction, they ended up writing the whole thing off. He didn't go in, in that way. Yes, Jerry? But we always need to remember, whenever we are tempted to get into a situation that would be, this isn't, and I know there's no levels of sin, I know there's no degrees of sin, but here's 7 things that we're told are detestable to God, 6 things that he hates. I would have to think that he takes special note of these things. And it's sometimes easy to decide that, maybe we'll stir things up here a little bit, try to create a little energy or whatever. That's never a good thing. God hates those who try to stir up conflict in the community, because we are supposed to be a family. We are supposed to get along. And because we're people, that's not always going to be easy, but we need to try to get along and try to know who each other is, know our strengths, our weaknesses, and we need to compensate for weaknesses. We need to help build upon strengths. Our job, we were talking about it in my middle school class on Sunday. We're told in the New Testament to consider how we can encourage one another and stir one another on to good works. And one of my kids said, "You mean I'm supposed to be thinking and planning about how I can encourage him and him?" I said, "Exactly. Your job is to think about how you can encourage Lance Baker, Daryl Ashby, Diane Moore, Sandy West, everybody else. It's supposed to be on all of our to-do lists every day as we go through our life, thinking about how we can specifically encourage one another to do things that will help build them up and edify them. That's our job. That's what we're supposed to be." Yes, Ron. Right. Yeah. One last idea before we end this evening that I want to talk about is part of encouraging and part of just dealing with one another. We all have to talk with each other, right? We all have to communicate with one another, all these things. I am not a member of the Rotary, never have been. I was a member of a community club called Kiwanis for several years during my Air Force time. But I've always admired one of the things that Rotary International has. They've got this 4-step truth test that they put out that I think is just absolutely outstanding and is very biblical. As we're talking with people and as we're dealing with people, anytime we say something, before we say it, we need to stop and think about 4 things. Number 1, is it the truth? When we're going to talk to somebody about something that's going on or maybe what's going on, the first thing we need to know is it the truth? Is it the full truth? You know, a lot of times there's more problems caused by half-truths and partial truths, where there's just enough truth to make it believable. What was it I believe Oliver North talked about with plausible deniability? When we get ourselves into a position where we're thinking about, is there a way I can deny this? Does this have plausible deniability? I think we're getting on bad ground here. But first we ask, is it the truth? Then second, we have to ask, is this fair to all concerned? Something may be absolutely truthful, but it may not be fair to all concerned given the situation that they're in to bring that up now. You have a good Christian man who 20 years in the past did something that he wasn't proud of, paid his debt to society, become a good citizen since then. Is it fair to him to bring that up again 20 years later, even though it's totally true? Is that fair? Is it fair to a victim of something that's happened that maybe even though they're a victim, they're still embarrassed that they ever got involved in the situation to begin with? Is it fair to them to bring that up and to talk about that? Even though it may be totally 100% true. Third thing, will it build goodwill and better friendships by talking about this? May be totally true, but if you know that it's going to cause division, if you know that that's going to irritate somebody, if you know that that's just going to bring up all this stuff from the past, it's not going to build goodwill and better friendships. Finally, will it be beneficial to all concerned? I think this fits in exactly with everything else that we've been talking about in terms of not causing division, not being one that's disruptive and divisive. You know, in the previous passage we talked about that God hates the lying tongue. I think if we run everything we talk or say through this truth test, we'll make sure that not only do we not have a lying tongue, but I think even the truth can hurt. and be improperly used. Hey, I appreciate it, everybody. Have a good evening. We'll see you on Sunday.